As an aircraft maintenance officer, you don't actually touch the jet and turn wrenches, per se. Now, there's a lot of great maintenance officers out there, a lot of great leaders that do this. Haha, did you?
Welcome to Lead From Within, a podcast of one airman reflecting on his time as an aircraft maintenance officer as he gets ready to transition to the pilot community. Here, we take a hard look at what works in the maintenance career field and what areas are sorely in need of improvement. We take a critical approach on what makes a good leader and manager and provide key takeaways for those interested in improving. The views expressed are those of the host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. Air Force, Department of Defense, or the U.S. government.
What's up, team, and welcome back to Lead From Within. I'm your host, Justin Jasm Hillstrom. Today we're talking about 8 things you need to know about the aircraft maintenance career field before you become an aircraft maintenance officer. Like I said in the last episode, this is going to be kind of part of a mini-series where I go over some of my thoughts, things you need to know about being an aircraft maintenance officer, some of the good, some of the bad, and then a review a Facebook post that we had on a aircraft maintenance Facebook page, which you're welcome to join. I'll try to link below about why others joined and why they stuck around in aircraft maintenance field for so long. So if that's something that seems interesting to you, something you think would be value to you, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you know when those videos are released. Alright guys, let's get into it. Number 1. As an aircraft maintenance officer, you don't actually touch the jet and turn wrenches, per se. Now, there are a lot of great officers and great leaders that do this because they want to get to know their people. They want to get to know the jobs. And to be honest with you, a lot of maintenance officers are just kind of gearheads. It's something they enjoy doing. So not only is it a great leadership perk, it's also something that you can do just in your free time throughout your day to, have a little more enjoyment in your job. But for the most part, your job is only to support those that actually do the wrench turning and not actually do the wrench turning yourself. Which brings me to my second part. Because you're not a wrench turner, you're actually not part of the sortie production value chain. And I think this kind of rubs a lot of maintenance officers the wrong way because whenever I say you're not part of the value chain, it makes people think you're not important. And that's not at all what I mean by saying you're not part of the value chain. In fact, I think the aircraft maintenance officer is a very key role in the sortie production, but it's not inherently part of the value chain. In fact, if you go on leave for 2 weeks, 2 months, if you deploy and there are no officers in that unit, it's still going to operate. It's still going to get the job done, and it's still going to just keep on trucking without you. Sad, right? It shouldn't be. You should take a lot of solace in the fact that all these senior NCOs, everyone that has so much more maintenance experience than you, is there and has your back to make things go and operate smoothly. But because you're not part of the value chain, because you don't have all that experience, the expectations are a little bit different for you. I like to say that an aircraft maintenance officer has just as much of an opportunity to hurt sortie production as they do to enhance sortie production. So you really want to make sure the things that you're doing are going to add efficiency. They're going to add morale, motivation. They're going to set this culture that you need in a unit. Because at the end of the day, you and the chief, the seniors, the rest of the senior NCOs, the master sergeants, you are there to establish, set, and determine the culture that you want in your unit to make sure that they are efficient, that they're part of the mission, that they feel loved. So you're not actually part of the value chain. So make sure when you are trying to take part of this value chain that you're taking recommendations from your seniors, from the master sergeant, from the techs, from the experts that actually know what's going on in the maintenance. Because unless you're a Mustang, unless you're someone that came up as a prior enlisted maintenance guy, you probably don't have as much experience. You don't have that technical expertise that they do. But you do come in with a fresh set of eyes and you look at things differently because you come out of that. So you have a lot of great opportunities. Just make sure you're doing it in the right way, that you're adding value and not detracting from the mission. Number 3. As an aircraft maintenance officer, you're gonna work a lot of hours. And I say you're going to kind of loosely because at the end of the day, for the most part, you set your own hours that you're going to work. No one's there to tell you, hey, you have to show up at 6 and you're going to leave at 1800. No one's going to tell you that outrightly. That's not true. You might have some leaders that tell you that very directly, that feel like they need to micromanage you because that's one of the issues that we have through the career field. But for the most part, you're going to set your own work and they're just say, hey, Your first meeting's at this time, and you can go home whenever you're done with your work for the day. And you're kind of treated like an adult, and you're expected to operate as an adult, as a professional officer. Now, whenever I say you work a lot of hours, one of the big issues we have in our career field is we kind of take those hours, that hard work, the being down in the trenches, figuratively, as a badge of honor. We like to say, we like to think of ourselves as better than a lot of other career fields because of how much suck we put ourselves through. And I definitely think we're better than a lot of career fields, but working more hours doesn't make you inherently better. And a lot of the mentality that comes from is like, well, I worked a lot of hours whenever I was coming up, so you need to work a lot of hours. So my airmen need to work a lot of hours. And I beg of you, when you get to that point where you're able to make a difference, don't just take on those hours to say that you work those hours. Make sure there's a purpose for it. Be the example. Set the expectations for all of your seniors and below on not working those hours if you don't need to. And really make sure that you have that mentality that, hey, my airmen don't need to be on the flight line for 12 hours just to work 12 hours. If they're going to work 12 hours, there better be a damn good reason, because we're not manned, we're not trained, we're not equipped for those guys to be out there for that long. And a lot of people just kind of throw the 12 hours at you as a fix-all, and it's really not. So make sure you're not just working for the sake of working. Make sure you have a purpose. Make sure your folks have a purpose as well. Number 4, the aircraft maintenance community is filled with amazing people that just blow your mind, destroy your expectations every day. They're some of the hardest workers, some of the kindest people, some of the smartest people. That's something that's really overlooked. It's just because, I hope this isn't taken wrongly, but because the ASVAB requirement for a lot of the maintenance career fields are so low, people just assume you're working with a lot of dumb dummies. And there's some dumb dummies in every career field. But man, just every day, the way people are able to come up with ways to fix problems that they see on the flight line, to overcome obstacles, to overcome lack of manning, lack of funding, lack of training, everything to make the mission happen, just, it's going to blow your mind. And you'll see that in the next video whenever we're reviewing the Facebook posts for why people stick around for so long. Hands down, the number one response is because of the people that you work with. And I'll just add on that one more vote. Wow. The airmen that work the flight line, I can't even put it into words. Number 5, and unfortunately, with all those great airmen that work on the flight line, there is also a really bad trend that I think is starting to get better, but a bad trend of toxic leadership. That's at the senior enlisted up through the senior command level. And I don't want to take away too much from future episodes, so I'm not going to go too far into the example, but when we talked before about people making their airmen work long hours just because they worked long hours, not setting an example, not having expectations, having changing expectations, not being able to make a decision. There's so many just small little things that slowly wear you down as a leader that just, and I've never been an aircraft technician that works on the line, but I just know, like, so many of those things, if they wear me down at my level and I get to see behind the scenes, I get to see why that decision was made, I get to see the thought process. If I get to see all that and I'm still so frustrated, the people at the lowest levels that just know they get jerked around for to them, no reason, it's just so toxic. And with that, there's also so little development that goes on as a maintenance officer and as a senior leader. And I think I mentioned before, but things are starting to get better on the toxic leadership front, on the development front, on so many different fronts. The aircraft maintenance community recently came out with a new aircraft maintenance officers course, which is the basic course that actually gives you this AFSC. They're focusing a lot more on the leadership side, and we get into a couple episodes down the road whenever I talk about what's expected of the aircraft maintenance officer as a leader and a manager and as a technical expert. I've always felt like there's so little development, so little focus on the aircraft maintenance leadership, and so much more on the management side. And the improvements they've made to AMOC is just one of the many ways that the career field is trying to get better. They've also come out with multiple different virtual learning courses, so they have them on our aircraft maintenance page, on the A4 page, so many different ways of improving. And not to mention, just as a lot of the toxic leaders are out, a lot of the younger guys coming through, a lot of the new leaders coming through realize that it doesn't have to suck just because it sucked whenever they were younger. So they're doing a lot, putting their foot down, setting the example of what a good mentoring, what a good development program should look like. So hopefully by the time you're in the community, you're part of an organization that has a good leader that is developing more. So don't let me tell you about this toxic leadership and lack of development and let that get you down, because it is getting better. And I hope you and I can be part of that change as well. Number 7. Now I tell you all this is getting better, and this area is also getting better as well. I want to preface it by saying that, but the Air Force doesn't have the best perspective of aircraft maintenance or aircraft maintenance officers. And if you stick around and listen to my channel for very long, you'll hear a lot of the examples from whenever I gave up my pilot slot to choose to be an aircraft maintenance officer, and I was told I'm throwing my career away because aircraft maintenance is implied to be so much lesser than being a pilot. Multiple times I've been told, wow, you're really smart for a maintenance guy, implying maintenance guys aren't very smart. And then being an AMOS badge, especially now that I'm wearing a flight suit most of the time because I'm at pilot training, the number of people just say, oh, wow, oh, no, I thought you were a real patch for a second. Oh, that's kind of deceiving, don't you think, that you're wearing a patch? Because you're not really a patch. The AMO schoolhouse isn't part of the weapons school, so it's inherently lesser than the pilot community, than Intel community, any of the communities that have a WIC patch. And just so many, like, from your strat not being counted as highly because you're a maintenance officer and you're just doing your job. So even though you're doing more, you're leading change, you're doing all this stuff, it's just inherently less and valued less by a lot of folks that aren't in our community because you're not a pilot. And that sucks. It's getting better, and I think we're starting to see the most senior leaders put a higher value on maintenance. That's not across the board true. Very recently, not the current ACC commander, but the previous one did say he doesn't trust in the maintenance career field at all. So there's still a lot of people that have bad perspectives. And I won't say for a large part, but there's a good reason for that, because we haven't always been the best at representing ourselves. But we're getting better, which means other people's perspective of us is getting better. But it's a slow process, and it's still out there. So you're going to feel a lot of slights against you as a maintenance officer. So even though we think we're better because we put in so much work, we do so much good, we do so much to help the mission, there's still a very negative perspective out there of what aircraft maintenance officer is. Number 8 and last, this is the thing I really want to leave you with. It is an extremely rewarding career field. I've already talked about the high caliber airmen out there. And if you listen to why I became a maintenance officer in the last video, I'll link that above as well at the end of the video. You'll be able to see that link. Because there are so many great airmen, you have a great opportunity to make an impact on some very important people's lives in a very large way. You know, I say you're not part of the value chain, but everything you do is going to impact hundreds of people's lives, their work lives, and therefore, for the large part, their personal lives as well. You're going to impact their leadership development, their technical development. So much, you have such a large scope. You have such a large opportunity for impact. I don't want you to think that I'm trying to oversell it, but it is huge. And you'll see it in the next week's video whenever we're talking about why other people stuck around in the maintenance career field, which unfortunately I can't claim since I'm at pilot training now. But you'll see in the next episode for people that stuck around, the people, your opportunity to make an impact, the reward you get in changing their lives and in providing the mission, in going down range and making things happen for the pilots, and making things happen for our country. It's second to none. And if you're in the same boat that I was, where you don't really want to be a pilot, so you don't want to be that very leading edge, you don't want to do that, you want to have a great opportunity to lead people, and you still want to have a huge impact on the mission, this is the career field for you. With the current leaders and their goal of accelerate, change, or lose, now is the time that you are going to have this huge impact, not only on the people around you, but on the Air Force as a whole. It's such a great opportunity, and I really hope you consider joining the career field, or I hope you're enthusiastic about joining and trying to get rid of some of these negative aspects of our career field if you've been selected for it. So that's all I have for you today, guys. Like I said, make sure you comment down below if there's anything you want to see about their maintenance career field that I haven't covered, and definitely subscribe. Turn on the notifications for the channel so you see when those videos are published, and I'll leave you with my 6 idioms of leadership, my 6 rules of leadership in life. 1, don't suck. 2, don't be a dick. 3, do your fucking job. 4, there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. 5, establish dominance. And 6, no amount of success compensates for failure at home. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Lead From Within. The views expressed are those of the host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. Air Force, Department of Defense, or the U.S. government. Mention of any specific commercial products, process, or service by trade name, trademark, manufacturer, or otherwise does not necessarily constitute or imply its endorsement, recommendation, or favoring by the United States government. The views and opinions of the authors expressed herein do not state or reflect those of the United States government and shall not be used for advertising or product endorsement purposes. Licensing and attribution of the music played in the podcast can be found in the show's description. Like for Kobe.
Before we get into it, I just want to say this is a weekend. I don't know how many of you know this. I actually lost a tooth to a dog bite, so I have a retainer I have to wear. I don't typically put it in on the weekend, but because I love you all so much and I want to look pretty, it's in on my teeth.